On August 17th of this year, Sarah Tuttle-Singer published an extraordinary blog post in the Times of Israel called, "Not Gonna Lie, Here's Who I Trust." Tuttle-Singer was raised in Venice Beach, California, on Yiddish lullabies and labor music, and now lives in Jerusalem with her 3 children. She began by saying that she does not trust either Hamas or the government of Israel. And then she wrote, "And before you start screeching, no, this isn't a comparison. It's simply how I feel. I don't trust either." I suspect you've already had a reaction to her statement. Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is a polarizing figure. The war in Gaza has become increasingly polarizing in the American Jewish community. There is a lot one could say about Israeli politics, culture, the military, and the whole Israel-Palestine situation. In fact, just by saying Israel-Palestine, I may have upset some people. The situation is so fraught, so complex, that we don't even agree on what to call it. Not only is the American Jewish community divided, there is anger because we are divided. Of course, there are also major divides within Israeli society. The assault on Gaza City is not popular with the Israeli public. There are divides between secular Israelis and the Haredi, who are the ultra-Orthodox, not to mention the thousands of people who are demonstrating against the proposed judicial reforms before the war, and the thousands who have been demonstrating to end the war and free the hostages. These divides are over major issues, with people on each side holding morally defensible positions. But at times like this, we lose the ability to see and hear people we disagree with. Moreover, we think the other side is naive at best or evil at worst. Does this sound about right to you? Sound familiar for our situation here in the US? You may be wondering how I feel and what position I will take from the Bima. Well, I won't take a position from the Bima. I may share with you how I feel and how I interpret our values in a given situation. But the Israel-Palestine situation is way too complex. There is way too much history, way too much trauma among Israelis and Palestinians for me to claim a monopoly on the truth or to tell you what to think. More than anything, I believe that we need to coexist with this community, whatever we believe. We need to have Kiddush with people we disagree with. From my perspective, there is a profound difference between the Israeli government and Israel as a country. I love Israel as a country as much as I do not love its current government. Sarah Tuttle-Singer, living in a country beset by war and division with a government she does not trust, spends most of her article on the people who she does trust. She wrote, "I trust the bus driver who slammed on the brakes and opened the doors when he saw me sprinting down the street. I trust the taxi driver who remembers the night my father had a heart attack in the back seat of his cab and who still asks about him, swearing he prays for him every day. I trust the old city merchant who told me not to buy floaty dresses from his stall, but to go instead to the wholesaler he uses, where they cost 1/3 of the price. I trust the green grocer who explains why the mangoes are perfect this summer and why the avocados are disappointing. I trust the tailor and the coffee grinders and the one who does my hair. I trust the woman who told me I had a stain on my dress. I trust the artists and miscreants, the philosophers and poets, the filmmakers and stubborn dreamers at the pub, and the bartender who somehow always knows the song the night needs. I trust my friends who walk across the hills in the blistering heat, even on Shabbat, just to sit a while. I trust the friends who arrive with soup, muffins, and scones when I'm sick. I trust the ones I call for logic and sound reasoning. I trust the ones I call for advice on crystals and aromatherapy. I trust the ones I call to pray for me at the Western Wall when things get really tough. And I trust my children, not because they are perfect, but because they are growing, because they are learning to choose kindness, to discern, to stumble, and get up again. I don't trust politicians, but I do trust the people who keep showing up. I trust the ordinary mercies that keep breaking through the cracks. You may not agree with Sarah Tuttle on some of the particulars. You may not be into crystals or praying. You may not like mangoes, and if that's the case, I will pray for you. But if we look at the big picture, she is painting a web of relationships. She is practicing a form of gratitude called Hakarat HaTov, recognizing the good. In a time of terrible darkness in Israel, she is looking for the good in the people around her. People being honest, people being there for her, people who care. Notice what she doesn't say. She doesn't say she trusts the barista who complains about the government with her. She doesn't say anything about the politics of the people in her web of relationships. And I suspect the politics of the people she is writing about are probably very different from one another. We too have a web of relationships. And here we have an opportunity to make them grow stronger. When I first read the article, my reaction was from a place of scarcity. Why don't I have more people like that in my life? It's an old and bad habit of mine. And after a breath, I realized that I do have people like that in my life. For example, when I left California, I let my dry cleaner know that I was leaving town and thanked her. She not only thanked me for being a customer, but she offered me a blessing. She was someone I trusted and valued, even though I did not know her name. She was in my web of relationships. When Rachel and I were graduate students at MIT, a friend of ours got divorced. She later told me that she looked at her web of relationships and targeted people she wanted to get to know better, including us, and we went on to be much closer friends. We all have this opportunity to mindfully look at our web of relationships, feel grateful for the people in it, and perhaps reach out to people we'd like to know better. But the most important question for all of us on this Rosh Hashanah morning is not, how do I find more people like the ones Tuttle-Singer writes about? The more important question is, how can I be more like the people she writes about? How can I exhibit menschy behavior, like remembering to ask about someone's parent who is ill? How can I show up for my friends, even if it means being out on a hot day after a long week? It's not easy to make time for changes like that. The good news is we don't have to boil the ocean trying to do that. Sorry, I'm seeing some confused faces. For those of you who've spent your whole life in Colorado, an ocean is a vast body of water that separates one continent from another. So boiling the ocean means taking on a project so vast that it has no chance of success. As it says in Pirkei Avot, first things first and last things later. In other words, we pick one thing to start with and worry about the rest later on. So where do we begin? Maybe the person you see here at shul could become someone you say hi to and chat with. Maybe the person you chat with at lunch today can be someone to have coffee with. Or maybe you have an idea of something that would be fun. Maybe you can volunteer to make it happen here. When it comes to volunteering, I am very much a bottom-up kind of person. Have any of you ever noticed the story of building the Mishkan is the only place in the Torah where the Israelite people were not grumbling or rebelling? The building of the Mishkan, the mobile place of worship in the desert, begins when the divine says to Moses, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from every person whose heart so moves them." And wow, were the people moved. They brought beautiful colored cloth, gold and silver, jewels and wood, and they brought their skills too. They brought so much that Moses had to ask them to stop. Well, I have an idea for a project too. It doesn't come from God, but from you. It's an idea that percolated up and resonated in the listening meetings that we conducted a few weeks ago. And we're going to have some more listening meetings after the holidays, by the way. I've been calling it the Space Beautification Project, but maybe we should call it the B'nai Torah Mishkan Project. I think we have a tremendous opportunity to beautify our space downstairs. For example, we can hang beautiful pieces of art on the walls. The posters that are currently up have a lot of text. They're fine, but maybe we can update them. In fact, I've heard that Cantor Diane has found a bunch of beautiful, colorful posters that we could replace them with. Do you have something to donate that could beautify our space? We'd love to have it. And no, this is not an invitation to clean out your basement and donate it to us. Do you paint or craft? Come talk to me. Do you just want to be part of it? Send me an email. Do you play guitar or another instrument? We'd love to beautify the space with your music. Do you like nature and being outdoors? Let's build a web of connection for those of us who find beauty and awe and majesty in nature. Come talk to me. And if you like to camp with your family, definitely let me know. As I mentioned last night, Rachel and I used to manage our synagogue's family camping trip. It was a highlight of a year for many of us. In fact, it's where we got to know the Frankel family, now some of our closest friends, and Adam and Jennifer are visiting us here today from California. Let's stop and take a moment and close our eyes. Take a breath. What does your heart want you to bring? If some anxiety crops up because you're busy, that's okay. Just breathe and visualize yourself bringing something. It is in your hands, and maybe you don't even know what it is. And as you walk into our space downstairs with it, you see all these other people there too, each bringing something. And you make eye contact with someone and you smile at each other. And you start to show each other what you're bringing, and you feel a connection that becomes a thread you can see. And you smile as your web of connection grows a bit wider. Sarah Tuttle-Singer finished her article writing the following: "If peace ever comes, it will not be signed into existence at a podium. It will come from the broken-hearted who demand justice, from bus drivers and mango sellers, from friends who bring soup, from children who grow up choosing kindness. It will come from us. We can be the mango sellers who tell the truth, and bus drivers who take an extra step to serve our riders. We can be the friends who bring soup, and we can be the people who choose kindness. We can build a stronger, more beautiful community, both at CBT and in the wider area of our lives and community. On this day, when the world began, I invite you to ponder, where will you begin? Shana Tova, my friends.